Hello, our merry Marvelites. Welcome to yet another Marvel movie talk. Still talking WandaVision. And no, there wasn't a new secret 10th episode of WandaVision overnight, but there are some questions in the chat. People weren't aware of the assembled behind the scenes special that premiered. I feel like if we talk about that special, it's not really spoilers because it's behind the scenes spoiling secrets as it is. And they mostly talk about stuff you know. But if you want to check it out, make sure you do. Hi, I'm Christian Platt, joined as so often by Michael Shirley.
Snooper's gonna snoop.
Snooper's gonna snoop. And let's see, in the Paul Lind Center Square, Eric Connor.
Yes, I'm Paul Lind. Hello.
Hello, Jeff Williams. And Jeff Williams for the block.
Yes, how you guys doing?
We're doing all right. So we've had a whole week to let WandaVision continue to just wash over all of us. And I think, as with anything, it's like we can do a show like this and immediately start talking about our thoughts and our reactions to it. But social media being social media, you usually have to, with WandaVision, I'm like, by the time that the next episode aired, I was going to post about the previous one. And that's on them if they didn't take the space of a week to watch it, So like when we got episode 6 or episode 5, I'm like, well, I'm going to talk about Evan Peters on Twitter. And it's like, you needed, if it hadn't been spoiled already, you deserve to have it spoiled. So as the conversation has kind of continued and people finally got to watch it, I wanted to ask you first, Jeff, what conversations have you been having about it, and what sort of interaction have you had with people, online? Because you do these short, 1 minute summaries that you post on Instagram. So what's some of the feedback that you've been having with people, as with most conversations these days virtually?
Yeah, a lot of people like the sitcom looking back on it, because it kind of hit different once we saw episode 8 and 9. You kind of got a different feeling for it, but there were still those people like me that were given a lot of theories, that were given a lot of hints, that were seeing all the Easter eggs and kind of expecting there's going to be at least one big cameo, at least one Avenger is going to come here. I feel like some people were kind of let down when there wasn't, and I get it because of coronavirus, because of we had quarantine, you had to be away from people. I just feel like it might be a question in other shows, because this was such a big storyline. This was such a big thing that's happening in the world. Why would there not be another Avenger be there? So yeah, that was the conversation that I heard and
Sure.
that I have.
Yeah, look, it's a valid question. It's not really a takeaway from the show. It doesn't detract from the show, but what would have been cool is if we got to see somebody else, if Ant-Man showed up,
We got Quicksilver, kind of.
We got a Quicksilver, it's true.
Amy Ralph?
Yeah.
And we got a new Avenger.
Yeah, that's true. And we got Speed and Wiccan, we got Agatha, we got so much new stuff that it was great. Eric, as you've continued to talk about the show, and have you been having interaction with students about this show and sort of that, in the academic sense? Have you, talked about it more from the analytical, or is it more just, I was going to say fanboy, but fan personing out over it?
Fan man, actually.
Yeah.
Honestly, I got to be careful too, because it's like, if my students are graduate students, undergrad,
Sure.
So they're older, but at the same time, like, I don't want to spoil it for them, and so I have to be careful, because you know what it is. The one thing about virtual teaching is I don't get the fun of being able to just bullshit with my colleagues and with with the students and between classes and stuff. So in essence, like, as a result, we can't really get into pop culture in the same kind of way because of that. So unfortunately, I think I've had to not talk about WandaVision, even though I kept telling my history of TV class, like, I even joked, I'm like, it might be on the midterm, y'all, and they called my bluff. It was not, because how could it be? But it should have been, because honestly, we covered all these decades.
Sure.
One thing that happened, I think, over this week, though, for me, and this is more fanboy, fan man, fan X, whatever you want to call
personing. Come on, it's 2021, Eric. Let's not be in the dark ages.
Fan human.
Yeah.
One issue I think for me, and Michael, you brought up, Quicksilver. Like at the moment, I'm like, oh, it's just some guy named Boner. That's pretty funny. And then I spent this whole week being kind of annoyed. I have to admit about that. Not the whole week. 8 minutes of every hour. I've been annoyed. It's like, yeah, really? So that's going to be it? I mean, I trust Marvel.
I don't think that's going to be it.
I assume not, hope not, but I worry now. What if this was just sort of like, hey, here's was it the line from Glengarry Glen Ross? These are the Glengarry leads, and you don't get them.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like with Evan Peters. Like, here's Evan Peters.
So you think with Evan Peters we got the shit leads?
We didn't get the good leads.
Okay, we didn't get the good leads.
Evan Peters is for closers.
And that's a fair point. What were you going to say, Michael?
I was reading an interview with Elizabeth Olsen, and she was talking about how she didn't know that this show was kind of introducing the multiverse, and she referred to Quicksilver in that. So I think there's a little more to it. I think that's going to be down the road. But we didn't really see much multiverse action as I thought we were going to see. We really didn't see anything.
Yeah.
But she confirmed, that this was setting up the Doctor Strange movie and that the multiverse is kind of like already here. Yeah. So I think there's probably more to Mr. Boner.
Well, let's hope.
I hope he gets his own show that's just called Boner.
The show just called Boner was the Growing Pains spinoff that never happened with Chekhov's son. But anyway,
I'm lost.
That's all right. That's for
your homework for next week.
It's for a very certain age demographic. Speaking about a potential Growing Pains spinoff, but that's fine. So one of the things that I thought I had no idea, and we were talking about it in the chat a little bit. I think with Daniel Drew, that it wasn't until seeing this assembled behind the scenes special. I had no idea that they had an actual studio audience for the first episode of WandaVision, and the fact that they did it on a sound stage and they did it all continuously, or as much as they could for something that has, special effects. I think that just makes it that much more amazing, and that, as they really go into the visual effects artists getting to do stuff on wires and, how it's like almost quaint to get to do that. And, it was really, it was really an exciting thing. And also it was just like, who got to sit in that audience, who sat on that for like a year. And if you see the cutaways, they were dressed up like from the 50s, the way that like people used to dress up to go to a ball game or go to anything. You didn't dress casually for anything. If you were out in public, you were a gentleman, you had on a tie and a hat. So that was I thought that was a really cool thing to find out, and I can imagine that must have made it that much more fun for for everybody on the show. Michael, did you get a chance to watch the assembled special?
But of course, yes, I did.
So what did you think about sort of that revelation, and what were some of the other things that jumped out at you from the special?
I actually assumed it was a live studio audience. I don't know if that just makes me an oddball. I just assumed that it was weird. I mean, that they had a normal like 50s kind of thing going. But going back to the wires, I thought it was really cool to find out that they had someone who had worked on Bewitched with wires.
Yeah,
doing that. And I mean, there were lots of little things that it seemed like the people that made this really just were so in love with the project, and you can see that on screen.
Yeah, I think people that were involved in every facet of it, obviously from the actors, but also, just set designing, production design, and the visual effects. That was a great sequence with the composers who did all the music for it, and most notably the theme songs. And it just seemed like everybody was like, "Oh, I get to do something that's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe." And it's also a sitcom, and it's like, oh, I get to write a 50s theme song. I get to do Bewitched special effects. Yeah, I think it's look, I think after a lot of projects, people will talk about, it's like, oh, it was a labor of love. But in all honesty, everybody probably hated every minute of it. But you feel like this, obviously this was work, but there's different levels of work. And I don't know about you, Eric, but it seemed like people really had fun with what they were called upon to do for this.
Yeah, and I think the people who had a connection to the original Bewitched, I think it was their mentors.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, because they worked on Bewitched, they'd be pretty freaking old, which would be awesome in its own way. But I remember we talked about Dick Van Dyke, and I loved that they had a sit down with Dick Van Dyke, and we're just talking to him like, how did you do this? So they had such a deep love for what they're doing. That, I mean, did they have to go to Dick Van Dyke? No. But in some ways, I almost feel like they were looking for like the blessing from the Pope, saying like, yeah. Dick Van Dyke has sat with us, and now we feel confident we can do this. And yeah, I loved watching The Wire work. I mean, that's to me what's so refreshing when you actually see movies that do things in camera, and you can tell they're doing them in camera. I mean, it's such a lost art form, So few of those people can still like make a living doing models and doing prosthetics. But it's nice to see that art has not disappeared, and it really is an art. Like when you watch, like, what was the corn or something that was on the strings? Like it was even stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, and I think there was something really kind of charming about it. And yeah, the idea that these designers get challenged to go deeper into their bag of tricks, to figure out how to solve these things without just leaning into the computer. I think it was actually what was really fun about watching the behind the scenes, watching Assembled, was it definitely deepened my appreciation of the craft.
I was a little disappointed they didn't have more with set designers talking about how they even went about getting all that furniture. Like, that's a labor of love right there, trying to get all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but the little things that we'd never know if we didn't watch that, like for Black and White, Vision didn't look right if Paul Bettany was painted red, so they painted him blue because women used to put on blue lipstick because that looked more like red. So and by the way, I didn't even know that about red lipstick in the 50s.
That was a cool thing to find out.
Yeah, so little minutia like that, I think is fascinating. And if they wanted to do 9 of those Assembled specials, I certainly would have watched them. If they wanted to break each of the sections into, I would have watched them over the next week. No, if they broke each section into its own episode. You talk to the actors one week, you talk about I don't know that I need a whole episode on the music, in all honesty, but that's just me.
But I'm glad they had that.
I'm glad it was there. I just I think that was the right amount of it. I don't know that I needed 60 minutes of it. But what about you, Jeff? What were some of the takeaways from it that anything that really stood out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I loved the behind the scenes aspect as a whole, because that's just like who I am. I love seeing behind the scenes of any type of production. I do production outside of this, just like you guys do. So like seeing that part, being appreciative of that part of the production aspect, not just of what you guys see on screen, was so cool. And to showcase it for an hour, I love that. One of my favorite parts was just seeing the camaraderie around the whole production. Like you mentioned how the audience was wearing 50s era clothing. So was the cameraman. So was like the PAs and everything. So like you could tell it was almost like a family putting this baby out there in the world, putting it together. They were just having fun. So like that's my favorite part. And then I kind of got into thinking about it too much. I was like, wait, we're in quarantine. When did they shoot this? Because at first there's a lot of people sitting right next to each other talking. And then later, like the scenes when they're outside, when it's more of a movie, and like all the neighbors are like close to each other, but they're by Wanda. You can see when they're practicing, they're wearing masks, and then like on the air, they're not. And I was like, I paused it and I was like, That's really cool. It's just like something for me. Like, I wonder, how did they do all this? When did they shoot it? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So to get that kind of reference was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Christian, your friend was on that.
Well, yeah, I was going in somewhere within the next couple weeks. We're going to have a standalone special episode with actually a couple people who worked on set. Part of what they did was COVID compliance. And the fact is that I think that they shot this show somewhat sequentially. But as they talked about in this, the town square stuff was all in LA. So the majority of it was shot in Atlanta. So at least I feel like we never had a chance of sitting in that studio audience. Not that I wouldn't have flown to Atlanta for it, but I was never asked. I
honestly think. Oh,
go ahead.
I honestly think that those are like parents and family members of the actors, and like they couldn't have their phones even in the building or something.
Yeah,
it was wild to think of like who was actually in the audience, because I'd heard about it when they were in production that was like a thing that they were going to do, and I still had no clue how you could get into that.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that the fact of the matter is that some of the show was clearly shot pre-pandemic, because it was going to, it was obviously, we've talked about how Falcon and Winter Soldier was going to be first, but this still was going to premiere earlier than it did. Instead of in January, it was, I think at one point we thought it was going to show up in November. So they needed a little bit more time, and I think they wrapped at the end of October. In LA with some pickups and additional shooting and things like that. So I think the town square stuff was all probably shot, like sequentially. They shot the so they probably, but that's the sort of stuff I would have liked to have heard from the special too. I mean, it's maybe it's boring for most people, but the fact that the pandemic arrived during production, it's like, well, I want to hear more about, how they were able to do it. And, one of the things that we heard from an interview since the finale, that Matt Shackman mentioned that if it hadn't been for the pandemic, there would have been more for Darcy and Agent Wu to do in the finale. They were going to try and find the Darkhold. There was a whole storyline that they had to abandon, and I'm not sure, but I think the impression is that they might have been able to do a 10th episode if it hadn't been for that. But at the very least, there's more that they would have been able to do, which certainly is at least they were well intentioned. The fact that that all that Kat Dennings gets to do in the finale is have a minor car accident is a little bit of a disappointment. But just learning a lot of that stuff was very cool. But yeah, I did think a lot about, because there's times where on set the crew's wearing masks, there's times where it's not. So you're trying to just figure out when it all is. One of the things that I thought was great was just how much time they had with Elizabeth Olsen, talking about how much she clearly enjoyed really getting to dive into this character and getting to play the 50s version. And Kemi Egan points out that loved how much, saying how much she loved to fly. And she was just excited because, Paul Bettany and Catherine Hahn were also flying. And she's like, usually I'm the only one who gets to fly. And, seeing those wire sequences was definitely pretty cool. And, getting some of the behind the scenes where, like Catherine Hahn talks about, how she's up on wires and there's this fan blowing on her and it's like, 110 degrees. And I love that stuff, getting to find out that sort of stuff. And back to visual effects for a minute, because our pal Farad Muhammad points out something that I did think was very interesting. I love the fact that the people who worked on the special effects of the Hex itself really paid attention to what they called, quote, the visual language of television. Yeah, they put in those lines from NTSC, which is they say on the special, the old sort of square televisions. And, anybody who would make copies of VHS cassettes and then copy them and copies of copies, you would get those lines more pronounced. And just that's the super nerdy stuff. But it's like, yeah, but that's what makes for cool, that those are the details that I think really make a show. But I don't know. I think that just all those different facets I thought were pretty cool. What did you think about that in particular, Eric? Did you appreciate the shout out to NTSC?
Always. I mean, I think PAL deserves its own show, its own version of this.
Let's not leave out CCAM. Come on, there were multiple formats, but
I know. In the comment section, oh no, Beta got quoted once or twice along the way as well. I think it's clear. Like, how many projects do you have that you get to do this? Like that you get to play. That you're basically like, okay, I want to go visit my old basement and get inspired. And that was, even for me as a fan, like I had so much of a deeper connection to the show, really, because I was cleaning out my old childhood home in the fall. So I was in essence like going back in time through photos of my parents, through my toys, like my Fonzie here, like finding this stuff. But except I couldn't find my Welcome Back Kotter lunchbox. Try as I might. So
Too bad.
yeah, I know that thing would be worth almost $6 now. With all the rust and nastiness on it.
That's what you get for putting it up your nose with a rubber hose. So obviously,
just order a new one on eBay. That's what I do.
Mom. I think you could tell from the behind the scenes, like just the joy of this, right? When a job doesn't feel like a job is when you get to play. I mean, even hearing the composers talk about how all they're doing is going back to all the shows they loved as kids. So yeah, I think there is such a pureness, if you will, to how they made this show, and it was infectious. It's really what made this, what could have been the worst Marvel product of all time, totally was all that love,
Yeah, I mean, when you put it that way, when you write it out in a sentence, you're like, oh yeah, that could definitely go wrong. Farad points out something musically. What's also cool is that the WandaVision 4-note musical motif used is what's called Devil's Tritone, which is the same chord used for the opening notes of The Simpsons. So I appreciate Farad bringing that to my attention, because I certainly didn't notice it. Kemi Egan, I got a kick out of the amount of detail used for the sets, especially the seats for the studio audience were similar to what a live audience would be sitting on for tapings. Not particularly comfortable. I think I've referenced this as we went along with this, but there's one episode of the show Scrubs where it was a fantasy that it was a sitcom episode, and I went to I went to it was a sitcom. So I was in the audience for the sitcom episode, and you could tell that people who don't usually get to work in that format, they were all really excited about it. I mean, I got
name drop. Go on.
I got to see Michael's favorite, Sarah Chalk, the real Becky, and anyway, no, but so it made me think of that, and that.
Didn't you win some graham crackers or
it was
animal
a box
crackers?
of crackers signed by Zach Braff and Sarah Chalk? Yes.
And what was that for?
There was a trivia question, which was, what number Becky did Sarah play on Roseanne? And somebody said 2. The answer is not 2. She played 2 and 4 because there was she had to come back a second time. And she was very excited that I knew, so she signed it for me.
Fan would know.
And then after the show, I asked Zach Braff to sign it, and he had no idea why I had this box of crackers with his co-star signature. He's like, okay. So good moment. But anyway, so I think that, if this is like a Marvel crew, there are probably some of them that had never worked on sitcoms before. And that must have been really exciting to kind of get to pay homage to so many of the shows that were really important to them in that way. And I do definitely agree with Farad. This is a series that could benefit from some kind of home video release with a lot of extras. I mean, Disney Plus can just add extras onto it. Just put a whole bunch of extras
out on VHS.
Oh, now see that I love that idea.
Stay tuned there for the movie for extra features.
Yeah, so it could come out as a 10-tape set. Each episode would be 1 tape, and then the 10th tape is like 2 hours of bonus features.
And then they come out with a WandaVision brand VCR that you can watch it on.
That would be cool.
Look,
listen, Marvel.
Don't think for a second that I wouldn't buy all of them. I'd have it set up in my my little basement studio, which is really just the back of the garage. Anyway, I think that this is a great point from Kemi Egan. The fact that they use different televisions for each decade for the visual language was fascinating. I mean, there's just so much of that's in there. And, I really thought that it was great, Michael, hearing from, Kat Dennings was talking about, just getting to bring back a character that, look, let's be honest, she probably didn't know if we were ever going to see Darcy again, because she sure wasn't in Thor 3, and Randall Park didn't know if we would get to see more Jimmy Woo. And, I think that just they really appreciated it. But again, to bring it back to Elizabeth Olsen, she really, I don't know. I mean, somebody could probably have tabulated the number of minutes she had in screen time before this series and how much of exploration her character had gotten. And then to get to do this, you could see how excited she was to actually not just get her own show from an acting standpoint, but to really get people to know. And, I think my wife summed it up that this is just everything that it leads up, including the previous movies leading up to the end of WandaVision. I mean, this is really her origin story because now she's the Scarlet Witch going forward. And I think all that factors into all of this. But how did you feel about watching who everybody called Lizzie behind the scenes, Michael?
Lizzie?
Everybody called her Lizzie. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Did anyone think that, like, after watching all that, Elizabeth Olsen was kind of like crazy?
I thought it was interesting that there were times where she talked and, like, she wasn't in character, but she talked like 50s Wanda, and I'm like, is she like that all the time?
Well, I was thinking she was trying to stay in character since they had the audience there, but I just thought she was a little like kooky. I honestly didn't think we would get a full-on Scarlet Witch after, like what you had said, like very little screen time in all these movies. I figured they'd kind of just get rid of her, but I'm really excited they have fleshed her out. I'm still not completely sold on her as Wanda.
Yeah.
But
you hate recasting, so at this point they have to stick with her.
We're stuck with her. I mean, as you guys know, I didn't see that last scene last week. And when I watched that was everything to me. Like, seeing her sitting there, flipping through that book. I really, really wanted to hear them, or even her, talk more about the new costume. I mean, we got to hear her talk, and, like, she always mentions how she just doesn't want to wear that leotard thing. But no one's really talking about the new costume. And I think that as someone that's pretty much like super traditionalist when it comes to what I expect out of a superhero costume, I think they satisfied me with that Halloween episode. So I was like ready to accept like this new look she's got. But just in general, I'm glad we've got her. I wouldn't have cast her as her, but it was neat. I usually hate to watch behind the scenes stuff. And hearing from the actors, it kind of takes the magic out of it for me. But I don't know. She seemed kind of like her television Wanda, like in real life.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think, Jeff. That's sort of what I was thinking. I was like, like watching her and Paul Bettany talk when they're not rolling, and I'm like, no, she's just like this. Like, this is what she tapped into to play. I felt like, right?
Yeah, her and Paul have a very weird dynamic because every time they're together, it's like they get the jokes and they have the timing together, but like no one else is on that timing. So I'm like, you know what, y'all do you. At least y'all make great content. So like that's what I was enjoying. But for Elizabeth Olsen in general, I loved how far they went back, because we went back all the way to Age of Ultron and when she was learning how to physically move her body to show you that she's using magic and stuff, and like to absorb it and go back and work with the I don't know what her role is. I don't know if it's like a motion.
Whoever that there was like a choreography person who was like working with. Yeah, no, I agree that like getting footage of her trying to just initially learn how to be the character. I think that's a great thing when Disney owns everything. You don't need to license that footage for something else or whatever. So
and then just one thing she said, it was about that. She was like, you could see with different directors and like different movies, we tease stuff and we kind of teed stuff off because we didn't know where we could go, but like there were so many different options, and it was like I kind of want to go back to see what notes they dropped, to see what kind of avenues they were thinking about, because at the beginning of it they probably didn't think they could have all the X-Men, because I don't think the Fox rights were even talked about at the time of Age of Ultron and stuff. So they probably didn't even think she could even say Scarlet Witch at the beginning of when she was seeing it. So it's just interesting to see what they planned at the beginning to what they have now, and I loved it.
Yeah. Let me bring in Michael B's comment. I'm glad they did this way because fans know the Scarlet Witch from the comics, to which they dogged her a lot. So I believe this was for the comic fans, knowing or hoping that folks will want to see her new origin, to sort of, clarify sort of the way that they muddied it a little bit. And yeah, the Fox rights being, what they were at the time. I mean, the fact that we had 2 Quicksilvers in the space of a year, I think it was the same year. I definitely think that if they knew what was coming, they might have approached it a little differently. But I think it's hard to not be excited about the show when you see how excited she was for it. I thought that that was really fun. We can continue to talk about WandaVision, but Cami Egan sort of brought this up. We know Falcon and Winter Soldier is completely different from WandaVision. Do you think it's going to be as successful? Look, I think a lot of people are going to watch it, but something about what WandaVision was, I mean, at least in my life, I knew people who don't typically watch superhero content at all. That I guess because the first 2 episodes were out at the same time. By the time of the 3rd episode, it seemed like a lot of people were watching it that I think typically don't watch this sort of stuff. I do think that a lot of people are going to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I think that the appeal is definitely going to be people who like these movies. And fortunately for Marvel and Disney, millions of people already like these movies. But
I think more people will give it a chance now.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah. But
sorry to interrupt.
No, that's all right. But as I've said, I will not be staying up to 1 a.m. to watch it. I will always watch it Friday morning.
Cut to 1 a.m. next Friday. You're up watching it.
Well, here's the thing. Right. So Michael, if it's 11:55 and I'm still awake, which is very rare, then I'll probably be like, no, let me just watch the first few minutes. Look, I stayed up to 1 to watch the first episode of Iron Fist when it premiered on Netflix. So clearly,
did you?
I did, because I was so excited. I wanted to see him, and then I was like, oh, okay, I can go to bed. No, I love me some Danny Rand. Everybody knows that.
You were super disappointed. I was on that panel with you. We were on the
we did the Marvel TV Weekly.
Yeah, Marvel TV Weekly.
And yes, when that premiered, I might have been a little let down, but
you were a little.
I want to find that footage of a depressed Christian.
It's out there. It's all on YouTube.
My eyes still dark from tears.
Yeah.
But this was also the very first Disney Plus Marvel show, so it's always gonna have that little bit of extra star power punch that the other shows.
Look, and
really
it doesn't hurt. Obviously, different universe, but a lot of crossover in fandom. That it was following up The Mandalorian by less than a month. So people. Yeah, the idea of Friday Disney Plus being sort of like a appointment, I don't know, television or appointment streaming. I think it's that's what they want. They want it to be the new TGIF. Is whatever content that they're going to give you on Fridays. They want you to feel like you have to watch it. And I don't know. I mean, Michael, we've talked about Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I know that is not the property that you're most excited for.
I hate Bucky. I don't trust him. Once a traitor, always a traitor.
I mean, sure, but I mean, you could say
love Sebastian Stan.
Yeah,
I don't like Bucky.
But you could say the same thing about Wanda. I mean, she saw the error of her ways.
She lived in ruin under a bomb for days. But, I mean, I can forget that.
I'm gonna update that Michael hates everything poster after every single one. There's gonna be no real estate left.
Actually, I did think that was really can we trust her? Especially when her brother dies. In this conflict with them, is she going to turn on them? But I think I've learned to trust her over the course of the movies.
Do you think there's a chance you could learn to trust Bucky?
When are you going to learn to love again, Michael?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think so.
Well, maybe after the After the 6th episode, they'll be able to say that. And they say that day, Michael Shirley's heart grew 3 sizes.
Well, what? I mean, Wanda was tricked.
Yeah.
Bucky wasn't really tricked. I mean, I guess he was kind of tortured, but like
He was controlled, wasn't
yeah, I mean, but
And Michael B is pointing out that Shuri fixed him, so he's not brainwashed anymore. But
cool now.
yeah, it's exactly that's what he says.
I don't know. He terrorized them for a whole movie. I don't know.
Yeah, and by the way, if someone killed my parents, like, I'm not going to come around on that. It's like, okay, you were brainwashed, sure, but like, I'm sorry, you're not being invited to my son's bar mitzvah.
Nope. I don't even know why he was at the funeral. Like, there's a lot of dog. You gotta. You're not here.
Right? Was it a family plot? Because then he has to like go over and literally walk by 2 of his victims.
I know you were getting to. Am I getting excited for it? Like, what do I think?
No. What is there something about it? And when we talked about it last week, you said that if Sam ends up being Captain America at the end of it, you'll feel like you didn't waste your time.
That's what I'm watching for. I want to see the transformation.
So it's not to get Emily Vandekamp back on our television screens. That's not what you're excited for. You don't understand. She was seeking revenge. Remember,
man, ABC, they will just swing you from every show to every property they have. She's great in Revenge, but like, God, when is her contract with ABC going to be up?
I don't know. Maybe she signed a new one. What would you say, Jeff, would be the thing that you're most looking forward to? The thing that you'd most like to see from Falcon and Winter Soldier?
I think for me, it's going to be Sam taking the mantle, and the process is going to take to get to that point, because we see they have like a new Captain America that the government wants and everything. And I'm in the comments, like there's turbulence between him and the government as Captain America and stuff. So I want to see like what they actually tap into. What kind of turbulence are they going to have? What kind of friction are they going to have? Are they going to go real world and talk about some of the stuff that's happening in our world? Are they going to talk about more mutant type of discussions and kind of lead into the X-Men? So it's just I'm just interested to see what kind of friction they're going to have, if they're going to have it, and then like what way they're going to portray it, because it's a storyline that leads him up to being Captain America and him being Captain America. And I know they're going to have some type of friction in the world through X-Men. So I just want to see where it correlates and if it connects at all.
Yeah, no. I think that I think that is the payoff that we all want to see, and I wonder if we're going to get it or if they're going to save that for a movie. And this is just gonna, because I mean, we know some of the characters that we are going to see. We're aware of John Walker, U.S. Agent, some of that stuff that we're going to get to see. What about you, Eric? What is the most exciting prospective takeaway from a show we haven't seen yet?
Well, last time I think I wasn't joking when I said Baron Zemo. Like, Daniel Bruhl is such an interesting actor. You guys might have seen Rush, not the Jason Patrick film. Again, I think Christian might be the only one who knows that reference.
And not the Canadian prog rock band.
Nor them. Roll the Bones. Alas, no. Rather, Baron Zemo, purple masked baddie. One of my favorite action figures when I was a kid for some reason. And
he's a cool suit.
Yeah, totally.
I had him with the Secret Wars set where everybody had a shield.
Totally.
And Captain America had the same shield as everyone, so his shield was not even remotely special. It's like,
and you put the thing in, and it would give you the double image.
Yeah. That's true. That suit is really cool. I feel like we're not going to get to see it, but I would love to.
I'm going to literally color it on my TV because I want to see it that bad. But also, he's such an interesting actor, and Captain America: Winter Soldier. I don't know where you guys all stand on your sort of ranking of your personal favorites, but that still might be my favorite MCU. And
Civil War.
I mean, Civil War's great. I'm not going to argue.
My favorite one.
Yeah, we're talking about sort of the same franchise, because for me, it's First Avenger. The first Captain America is still my favorite of the bunch.
I like the first Captain America movie better than that. The very first one.
The 90s
one? The one from 1990 with Matt Salinger? Yeah, look, it's if things slow down in the summer, we can do the Matt Salinger Captain America.
please.
And I want to. Michael knows I've been talking about this for years. I want to do the Roger Corman Fantastic Four as well. I want to really dive into that.
And let's throw in the Dolph Lundgren Punisher. I mean, let's go all low budget '90s Marvel properties when it was at its peak.
And let's, of course, we can't forget David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury. You
mean the real Nick Fury?
That
matters.
I agree. Jeff, what's your favorite MCU movie?
Yeah, since we're all playing, is it David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury?
That's not MCU.
Oh, you're right.
See, I feel like the easy answer
canon.
is Civil War. The easy answer is Civil War.
Sure, because it's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna just go with Civil War.
Yeah,
because it was a great movie. It was a Captain America movie, but like it introduced so many people, so many players efficiently. Like it wasn't too crazy. It just
Spider-Man intro is great.
Yeah, I loved it, and like I really hope that Spider-Man 3 is like on par with that, because I worry that it's gonna be too many different people. But going back, Civil War is my pick, just because it has so many great pieces.
And the tone is going to be there, like Civil War, Russo brothers, Winter Soldier, Russo brothers.
Yeah,
that's what I hope. From the ads, it looks like that's maybe the playbook they're going with, but I guess we'll find out in a week from now at 1:01 a.m. when Christian finishes watching.
Maybe. Let's be honest. It's going to be 12:37 when the show is over. There's no way it's going to be an hour. What were you going to say, Michael?
Sorry. I was gonna say not to like be dropping like fancy stuff like you do, Christian, but I will say my improv teacher wrote the lines that Spider-Man said when he came into Civil War for the first time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Jeff, what were you gonna say?
To be honest, no, I remember now. When you said 37 minutes, when I watched this movie, when I watched the behind the scenes, the first thing I thought about was like, how is this episode going to be longer than every episode of WandaVision? Almost put three of them together. It might have been the same length.
Yeah. By the way,
that's crap. That's craziness.
Cammie Egan with some very important advice. Don't hassle the Hoff.
Oh, and Michael B.
Yeah, Michael B. mentions. I've seen this. This was a TV movie.
I have not
70s
seen
Doctor Strange.
It Daredevil was with Hulk Hogan, with the Daredevil from the Incredible Hulk show. Remember that?
Yeah.
He was like a black suit.
Well, and there was Thor. Thor was on. They did an Incredible Hulk movie with Thor on it. Yeah,
it's more like Thor Birch.
Michael B says it better be an effing hour. I'll tell you right now, Michael B. I've watched a lot of Disney Plus content over the last year and a half. It will not be an hour.
Eric, that is the most publicity Thora Birch has gotten in like 5 years. I think she's gonna be sending you a check.
Was she the one? No. I think I'm confusing her with Fairuza Balk. She was in which one of them was in the Island of Dr. Moreau with
I didn't
Marlon
see
Brando.
that.
I'm going to assume Fairuza Balk because she was probably there when they showed up to film.
Yeah, but here's the thing. This is completely off topic. There's a documentary about the making of that Island of Dr. Moreau movie. That's one of the most. It's one of the most fascinating things you'll ever see. To the extent that the original director gets fired, but hangs out and ends up playing an extra in the finished movie. I can't recommend this movie strongly enough. Farad might actually remember the title of it. I've got too many plates in the air to Google it, but I'll try and do that before the end of the show. That is one of my that is such an amazing documentary. Anyway, so that's where we're at in terms of what's coming next. But this is funny from Farad. It would make me laugh furiously if the first episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier ends with a please stand by test pattern like WandaVision did. I agree. So, Michael, you sent me a story that referenced the great financial impact that the success of WandaVision has had for for Marvel, but of course I missed the part where where's the cool picture? There it is. Talk a little bit about tell us about the story that you sent to us.
Well, ever since WandaVision started airing, kind of like key comic books for her, key comics that inspired little bits of the story, they've all just been wiped out, like on eBay, on Amazon, on Marvel's own website. I'm sure they're seeing a huge jump in digital reads on those comic books. So they're putting out, they haven't said which ones, but like key issues of these comic books that are selling out. You can look online. There's a list of a lot of them that prices have gone up. And
ones like House of M, of course, the Tom King run of Vision, the Steve Englehart Vision and Scarlet Witch miniseries from the 80s, which is when she initially gives birth to the twins, and they do live in the suburbs of New Jersey. They move out of Avengers Mansion in that show. So there's a lot of, if you're able to read it, and the beauty is that if you really want to read these things right now, they're all available digitally on sites like Comixology, which is part of Amazon, or Marvel Unlimited. I'm sure you can get some of them, but I'm also sure you can't get all of them, because why would they do that? So I think
those Vision ones used to be so easy to get, so cheap, and now they're virtually impossible to find.
Well, and the conceit of the Tom King Vision series is fascinating, because it's basically Vision manufactures an artificial family in the suburbs, creating sort of like the idyllic suburban white picket fence. So it's basically like a reverse WandaVision. So I can see there being a lot of interest in these things, and I think that's great. People,
I think we're going to get the whole series coming out like weekly.
That'd be interesting.
Like back in the day.
And since we're talking about comics, before we get to the final presentation that Michael has for show and tell, there was a cover or two that you wanted to show because it made you think of the show.
Like this one's kind of hard to see. It's a lenticular cover of an old Avengers and a new Avengers. But this is the old one, the Avengers 187. This is something that's really hard to get. I'm sure they're going to be doing a reprint of, not this style, but I did get this comic book because it reminded me so much of the fight scene.
Yeah.
Between Catherine Hahn and Elizabeth Olsen. But in this, I'm blank on her name, but that's Scarlet Witch's clone.
Her clone who
is more powerful than her and faster than her. But
which I forgot that I was going to Google that, but
it's okay.
Yeah.
But looking through these, just the covers of a lot of these, you see so much of WandaVision in a lot of it. But if you guys want to get your hand on this really cool one, it's Uncanny Avengers 3.
Because we're doing show and tell, I got this for $25. This is it's not an amazing condition, but Avengers number 100. Look at how stylish Vision is, just standing there in the upper corner. And honestly, come on, that Scarlet Witch costume is pretty awesome. But look, it's got so many of our friends. By the way, that's Hawkeye. I don't think we talk about that too much.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
That specific era of
the 70s, man. Drugs were everywhere.
Yeah, and the final thing is from me is that documentary is called Lost Soul: The Doomed Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau. You will definitely enjoy watching this. It has nothing to do with MCU.
Should we watch Dr. Moreau first, the Island of Dr. Moreau, before we?
No. This is so much more entertaining. There's clips in it. That's enough. You should definitely check it out. Eric, have you seen this documentary that I'm talking about?
I've seen pieces of it. I realized, and you're saying this, I'm like, how did I never actually watch it? I'd read all about. I mean, like Marlon Brando basically adopted the little person who was.
He sure did.
But he treated him like a pet.
Yeah, and there's and he's dressed exactly like him. I don't know. Everything about it is great. So, Michael, you wanted to offer up a presentation. Do you want to explain what this is?
You
referenced this on a past show.
A dramatic reading if you will, of Solo Avengers starring Hawkeye and Moondragon, number 16.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to go straight to the letters to the editor section.
Yeah, let's skip the whole story. Nobody's interested in that.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet.
You probably never will.
Look, well, just give us while I find the page, tell us a little quick rundown of the Moondragon story with Hawkeye.
I don't remember it at all, in all honesty. But
I would think you would have worshipped this magazine and showed it to everyone you knew.
Well, no, but I have a copy of it because, as I mentioned, that it does indeed have a letter to the editor written by me. And keep in mind, I was 13 at this point. And I think I would write letters to, comics that sold well, and then realized I'm like, well, I'm not getting published. So then I started writing to like Marvel Tales, which just reprinted old Spider-Man. I'm like, ain't nobody writing into Marvel Tales. And lo and behold, I have a letter in Marvel Tales number 212. So Michael can buy that next. And then I'm like, Solo Avengers, that's got to be like half.
Kristen, you got to work that into every episode. That letter.
This letter, yeah.
Oh, he's got
your letter getting printed in Marvel.
Well, I only have 2 Marvel letters, and I think there's one other that I'd have to.
It's really bitchy, you guys. Just to preface that, this is
really
bitchy.
Oh, good, because I have not read it in a long time. I've mentioned it. I've posted that cover, and I've told people that I've been published when it's come up on.
No one believed you, but I'm going to prove them all wrong.
All right, prove them wrong. All right, I'll stop with the ramp up, and I'll let Michael read it.
And please add him.
And I also want to preface this. This is written by Chris Blatt.
And I said that I don't know if I signed my name wrong or they just shortened it for me. I was not usually somebody that liked to be called Chris, because there were like 5 Chris's in my class. So I liked the fact that I had a different name, but also at age 13, I could very well have just been like, I want to fit in, so I'm going to shorten my name. So I'm saying that it is not impossible that I did it, but I feel like they felt like, well, he doesn't want that whole name.
Chris Black got all the chicks. Christian, meanwhile, stood on the sidelines.
Yeah.
I've got 2 more things to say before I read this. I'd also like to say that everyone else has put down their actual living address, like where they live.
Oh no, mine's it's my mailing address. It's RD4
Put a PO box.
No. It's RD4 box 134 because where I lived, it was rural delivery.
Okay.
Because it was very rural suburbs.
Well,
and
he didn't want anyone to know where he lived.
No, eventually we did get, they had to put street numbers to the houses and have it correspond to your street, because eventually we got 911 service by the 90s. So overnight, my area code changed to 845. And also my address became 35 Lake Drive, and my parents don't live there anymore. So I'm just blurting it out because,
you wanted to know they could get to you.
But I mean, it was like some people were rural route 4 and we were rural delivery, and I don't know what the difference was, but so I had a lot of mail came to RD4 box 134 Greenwood Lake, New York 10925. Anyway.
That's it.
Delaware just became so much hipper just by your description of where you grew up. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, please, if you weren't hipper than Greenwood Lake, New York, you were missing out on something. All right. Well, Michael, this has been more of a preamble than Star Trek motion picture. So let's go ahead.
Yeah, this is really long, so bear with me, you guys. Dear Solo people, I just finished reading issue 13 of Solo Avengers, and as usual, I found it enjoyable. Nothing more, just enjoyable. I like the book, I really do, but I see room for improvement. Here are just a few ideas to improve the book. I think that both characters, Hawkeye and whoever, should get at least 2 issues to tell their story. It just seems that 11 pages cannot tell a decent story.
Tell me I'm wrong, by the way. Tell me I'm wrong.
If for some reason you don't want a story to take up 2 issues, you could make each issue double-sized. Yes, I know that didn't work in the 60s with the Silver Surfer, but that was the 60s, and this is the 80s. When independent publishers sell 28-page black and white books for $1.75 and up, So I doubt that 150 for 40 pages would be a problem. Of course, if you did, you would keep the book monthly. I think
I like that. I like that. I'm trying to map out an entire business.
Just
model
wait.
for them.
Oh, just wait.
Oh no! Please, go ahead.
It gets fishier. I think you should use supervillains that people have heard of. I really am getting tired of all the bullet bikers and blind justices you guys keep on creating. I'm not saying that new characters aren't a good idea, but just stop making so many. I'd like to see Hawkeye against villains like Taskmaster, Master Panda Bear, Pandemonium, and a lot of other bad guys who can't destroy planets with just regular superpowered crooks. I know the comic is called Solo Avengers, but how about a special multi-part story starring the ex-Wackos, Tigra, Moon Knight, and Mockingbird? I really do want to see them again. They hardly have cameo appearances.
Well, let me interject what that is they had like a lineup change for the West Coast Avengers, and for some reason they thought ex-Wackos sounded like fun or something, but it was characters that they didn't do that much with because I think John Byrne took over West Coast Avengers, and I stand by that. I could always use more Tigra and Moon Knight. Okay, go ahead.
I'm really into number 5. Number 5, I think you should have one art team for every issue, both stories.
100%.
It seems that the two stories are almost always clashing in art and story. Imagine an issue with one story drawn by Bill
Sienkiewicz.
Thank you. And another story drawn by Steve Ditko. Those art styles have absolutely nothing in common. They would clash. Same with writers. Please get one team for the whole book. A good team. Think about these suggestions, please. Now about Avengers 13.
Oh, Lord.
Beware the Bullet Biker was an enjoyable story. Ron Lim is definitely one of the best artists in the business.
Ron Lim's great.
This and last issue look great. Please keep him on the book as long as possible. I think you should keep Gail Rogers around as a supporting character. It seems that she and Hawkeye will become friends.
What? Oh, he must have been divorced from Mockingbird at that point.
How did you become friends with anyone?
All right.
I don't know.
Fall Guy was another enjoyable story. It was probably one of the best in the series. I mean, really, it had humor, action, and most importantly, Wonder Man, my favorite current West Coast Avenger. Jackson Geis is another great artist whose work I have admired for quite some time. Single File had a letter by Cameron McAra, which I partially agree with. Being a Marvel 2-in-1 and a Marvel Team-Up fan, I like the idea of having full-issue Hawkeye stories with other Avengers fading in and out. This would be terrific. Some ideas for a name would be Duo Avengers, Avengers Team Up, or Hawkeye and the Black Knight, if he were a guest. If the guest was the Mighty Moose Man, then it would be Hawkeye and the Mighty Moose Man. I think I've rambled enough, but just one last thing, Mark. Just for the record, I like your Mark's Remarks column. I hope all editors create such columns, and stop putting your column down when the space is limited and you say, "Hold the applause, please." Chris Blatt, Greenwood Lake, New York.
Wow, that's.
They had a little something to say. They said
Mark Grenwald wrote back to me, who he passed away in 1996, by the way.
He says, "Consider it made."
Letter to his chest.
Yeah. Wait, what did you say, Michael?
He says, "Consider it made, Christian. Sorry you won't be seeing any more of the so-called ex-Wackos since they disbanded in West Coast Avengers number 41. Take heart, though. Tigra went back to the West Coast Avengers. Moon Knight is slated to get his own book back sometime in 89, and Mock, well, she'll be around. We have been featuring more guest stars in Hawk's feature, some of which border on out-and-out team-ups, but no full-lengthers have been planned yet. Oh, yes, and you fans of old villains are going to be pleased by Hawk's opponents in the next few months, that's for sure. Thanks for writing."
You know, the editor pissed himself laughing, says Michael B. And look, here's the thing. Nobody was writing the Solo Avengers because they printed that whole letter.
This
And
is from a
now I'm-
13-year-old boy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
This is very well written.
A 13-year-old who probably could have stood to get out of the house a little bit more often in hindsight.
I mean, you sound like the same person.
Yeah, but that's not a compliment, Michael.
Well, I know where you live in Burbank, so I was thinking of going over and stealing your lunch money.
Yeah, you could very easily get it. It wouldn't be that difficult. And I was reading, by the way, Solo Avengers, that title.
Oh!
No.
He cut out. No.
That's okay.
Someone's right now giving him a wedgie right outside.
Righto, right.
Sorry,
Oh,
Oh, there he is.
myself out. That was my mistake.
You're just so excited for all of this,
Yeah.
attention.
No, but Solo Avengers lasted 40 issues, but they changed the name to Avengers Spotlight at one point, and I think that they did switch to one story per issue. They stopped after issue 20. And
I hate when they do that because that messes where I put them in my comic book collection.
Yeah, exactly. But that, you know what, the retitling was the same thing how West Coast Avengers went to Avengers West Coast, because
Then it's on the opposite end of the.
they wanted them all to be on the same shelf and probably being on the top of the shelf. So anyway, I know that took a long time, but thank you to everybody who indulged us.
Worth
And
every second.
Jeff, what do you think now that you've gotten to some insight into my 13-year-old psyche?
Look, I just need to go to the comic book store and start looking for specific ones now. I'm interested. I'm more interested in the notes than the comics now. That was great. At 13 years old, I was like, you're really going in on it. Like, actually, I got some examples and I got names for you. I was like, this is gold. That is,
yeah. Well, and I also told them how to publish and what they should charge. I think
You tried to name the teams.
Why didn't you? They should have gave you a job after that. That was like a job application, low key.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, there are instances of some interesting letters to the editor. Kurt Busiek, who people know from various creations, he has a letter to the editor, I think in Uncanny X-Men 143, and he talks about how much he hated the Dark Phoenix storyline. And it's kind of fascinating because you're like, I'm pretty sure he went on to write X-Men at some point, because it was like jury duty in the late 90s. Everybody had to get a stint of writing the X-Men, and not everybody survived it. But then going all the way back to the 60s in Fantastic Four, I believe it's number 20, George R.R. Martin of Game of Thrones fame has a letter to the editor. I believe he said, Fantastic Four is great, but why isn't there more incest in it? No, that's actually not what he said. But yeah, how about some more longing glances between Johnny and Sue? That's what would help the show.
This doesn't do it for me. I need more. I need more.
Anyway, well, so yes, I just lumped myself together with some other creators, and look, I could have reread that letter anytime, but it was much more fun to let Michael, how much did you have to spend on Solo Avengers 16?
Like with tax and shipping?
Yeah.
$5.
Yeah. So
Worth it.
yeah, it's worth a 28-page. It's worth as much as a 28-page black and white book selling for $1.75 in 1989. So, thank you everybody for that. I hope that people enjoyed it, but I know I did. So we will be back next week talking about episode 1 of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Until then, Jeff, where can people find you?
Yeah, you guys can follow me at Jeff Will Jr. Jeff Will Jr. on all social media platforms. Talking about all superheroes, even the Flash sometimes. So we dip into the DC side. But yeah, that's where you guys can follow me and continue the conversation.
Do you like the new Superman series that the CW has?
Oh, hey.
Surprisingly, I do. And it's because it's more grounded and they have responsibilities. We never see superheroes have responsibilities.
That's true.
And the fact that their kids are like questioning them, like actually giving them responsibilities, I really enjoy it.
Michael, how many minutes did you get into it before you had to turn it off?
Like 20.
But I see, like, now I've gotten these two very different opinions, and now I don't know what to think.
Nothing can be bad as the new Batgirl, though.
You don't like the new one, the new actress?
Did you like the first one?
Oh, Ruby Rose is a terrible actress. I mean, but
I was gonna say, at least
think,
it got better.
I didn't think that they could find a worse a worse actress than Ruby Rose until they found Javicia Leslie.
My mom chimed in, so I just found you as your ending. Mom, you might want to make sure you go back and watch this one after it's archived, because Michael just read a letter to the editor that I wrote in 1989 to Solo Avengers. That's my mom. Yeah, she watches regularly because I kept talking about WandaVision so much. My mom started watching it and she really enjoyed it. So she might enjoy this conversation too, but she thinks she'll definitely like hearing about, just how many opinions her 13-year-old son had, although she probably remembers that I had some opinions back then too. Anyway, interesting. I don't know. I think that my DC viewing time is going to be taken up by hate watching the Snyder Cut, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Eric, I know that we're wrapping up, but you sent me something that was kind of an interesting observation that I meant to bring in earlier, but talking about DC heroes now, if you want to just mention quickly, sort of the observation you had about the Maximovs.
Oh yeah. So basically, because my 12-year-old is basically saying, okay, Snyder Cut comes out, we're watching all 4 hours in one day.
Yeah.
And I was like, but it's not supposed to be watched a week. It's like, I don't care. So I get it. Yeah, oh yeah, he totally started to take over the house, kind of like Wanda style, with his powers. Like
you should be careful. He might start writing letters to the editor of Marvel Comics.
He's 1 year away from that.
Okay, that's fair.
So one thing we noticed, we watched Justice League again to get ready for the Snyder Cut. I know, and in there's this random family shows up that's basically the same family as the Maximoffs.
I forgot about this. Yeah.
I sent we could share it even next time. I sent some pictures of Christian where literally you look at them together and it's the same exact everything. It almost looks like they went to the same casting for Eastern Europe, Eastern European, bald casting.
And I think everybody, now that you mentioned, I kind of remember that at the time, and I think everybody's like, "Oh, Joss Whedon needed to put the same family into this movie." Yeah,
he had like leftover footage, and he just sort of put it in. He's like, "Hey guys, it won't cost any extra. I'll sell it to you half price." So
no, that's interesting. Yeah, I think it's going to probably be difficult for us to not talk about the Snyder Cut, even though that's not what this show is. Because, but I will not have seen it by the time we talk about. Wait, it's next week, right? Yeah, I will not have seen it by the time we do this show because I have to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier. So, what if I stay up to watch Snyder Cut instead? So I'm up at 4 a.m. being like,
seriously, that might happen in this house. Like,
yikes!
There have been threats have been made. And by the way, Christian, I think what really was happening with your letter, you were still healing your wounds from the Mets loss to the Dodgers in the '88 playoffs, which turned you into a much different guy.
Mike Scioscia, yeah. Oh, believe me,
that series should have been theirs, man. But that letter, Michael, I will happily put money towards you finding more letters of Christian, whether or not they were letters to Marvel or letters to girls, whatever it was.
Oh no! Here's the thing.
We've got to show you Christian's prom picture.
All the letters to girls were never actually sent to the girls. I would write them and then be like, no, I can't, and then I would set them on fire in case they actually were to be found accidentally.
With the letters of the girls.
You know what? It's so long ago. I think the records are still sealed. I can neither confirm nor deny.
I hope you read that as part of your wedding vows to Heather. That letter, the letter that Michael.
Oh, the Solo Avengers number 16 letter. Yeah, no,
very particular.
Yeah, I did have 5 ways that I felt she could improve as part of our vows. So it was very similar to that letter.
6.
No, but my wife only had 5, so that was the difference. And Zachary Butler just chiming in at the end. What is the Avengers Assemble Make of WandaVision? How do I watch? It's on Disney Plus, just like WandaVision was. And you have to. it didn't. I don't know. I just typed it
It
in. To
wasn't
find
under WandaVision, though.
Yeah, that was the confusing thing. But you can definitely find it, and then you can watch our show afterwards. Eric, tell people where to find you and how they can find your documentary, which I believe came out last week.
Oh, thank you, man. Count Eric Connor is my name over on Twitter and Instagram. And I don't know, it's kind of a funky link, but there's a virtual platform called darkroom.film, which is where our documentary Other Voices is currently screening. I suppose I could put the link up because it's not like super intuitive, but
yeah, you could do the old Instagram link in bio.
Yep.
Link in bio.
Link in bio. So if you are, after watching Winter Soldier, want to see another story of unlikely friends across borders, in this case Israel and Palestine, well, I don't know how it'll be as a double feature with Winter Soldier and Falcon, but there's only one way to find out. So if you have the time and a buck or two, it'd be great for you to see it.
Well, it would probably go well with Lost Soul, The Doom Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau. I feel like it'll fit very well in there. And Michael,
Are you getting paid?
No, I just love that movie so much. No, I might
watch it this week, Christian. By the way,
I might start recommending documentaries to people that may or may not be good. I already know which one I want to mention.
Like between that and Thor Birch, I'm like, is there some kind of money train I don't know about going on here?
To be fair, it was Fairuza Balk.
Nothing stops the money train.
Yeah. Michael, where can people find you?
Well, I guess if you want to, you can find me at I Hate Michael Shirley on Instagram and Michael X Shirley on Twitter.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to the Blackcast YouTube channel and find this show, our political show, Biden time, and also the Blackcast. My mom says I'm a good interviewer of musicians, so it must be true. And she watched this show for about 2 minutes today. So, obviously we appreciate all of it. Anyway, so you can find all that at the Blackcast, BLADTCAST. Thanks so much to everybody in the live chat. Thanks to all of you. And we'll see you next week talking Falcon and Winter Soldier. Bye.